Hey Dan, how are you?
Hey there, Pujix man. Glad to be here with you for yet another great episode.
I'm sure it's gonna be. I mean, we haven't done it yet, but I'm sure it's gonna be because it's always fun with you. How's it going? How's life?
Life is wonderful, buddy. We are basically almost 75% done, and I'll be in Moscow for another few days. Hopefully, I'm
Nice.
basically flying out in less than a week or so. So things are very good. We have finished our exhibition, and we've almost done all the projects. I also met the clients as well as a few other friends, and hopefully we'll be out of our way here by Sunday.
Very good, very good. Let me give you a piece of interesting information. Um, it started snowing last night here, and it
In
caught me by
Toronto.
fucking surprise. Yeah,
Well,
because
actually, we unfortunately the exact same thing happened in Moscow. So Moscow was snowy until 6 p.m. yesterday.
damn. Yeah, I
I guess
mean,
it depends on where you are, but I'm
yeah,
pretty sure people who are now, I don't know, in the hotter regions, they're having a good time. It's
yeah.
springtime, they're enjoying it. But yeah, if you're in north, you're gonna have to deal with the snow, man.
Yeah, no, but then again, the reason that I was so surprised, I mean, I didn't look at the forecast, obviously, because if I did, I wouldn't be too surprised. But the day, like yesterday, the weather was so good. It was basically spring, 9 degrees Celsius, lovely, amazing. And then all of a sudden at night, I look out my window, and it's fucking snowing, and I was like, "What the fuck is happening here?" It was interesting. Anyways,
Well, I think, let's be honest. Of course, we've talked about this earlier regarding global warming, and I think the new terminology, because in the past they used to call it global warming.
yeah,
Now they call it climate change because we are seeing a lot of weird weather patterns that are
sure.
somehow unpredictable. So I guess that's the reason why it's happening. I don't know. We'll see. For now, we have to wait to see what happens with the environment.
It's throwing some shit up. I guess it's just shit faced right now. Anyways,
That's
that's not
right.
today's topic though. Today's topic we're talking about risk taking,
That
all that good shit. Yeah. I don't know why I'm cursing today too much. Oh, well, whatever.
Well, I think in general you've been cursing a lot more lately. It probably depends, I don't know, on a lot of factors.
Yeah, well, climate change probably.
Probably climate change. That's right.
Let's blame it everything on climate change. Who cares?
That's
Anyways,
right.
so yeah, risk. First of all, what is risk? Everybody knows what risk is. I was gonna say what the fuck risk is. I tried to control myself. Anyways, so everybody everybody knows what risk is, and everybody. So that's the thing, though. A lot of people have associate positive connotation with risk, and a lot of people associate negative. I have not seen a lot of people who would say, yeah, it's sometimes good, sometimes bad. Generally, I mean, that might be their belief, but generally, when you say risk, everybody either has a negative association with the word risk, or they have a positive one, which is interesting to me. So, what do you? So when we talk about risk, what is the first thing that
That's right.
comes to your mind? Is it actually positive, negative, neutral? What do you think of risk in general? Super
Well, first of all,
abstract.
you mentioned something very nice about people. I generally believe that most people actually would like to avoid risk. This is proven psychologically because the fact
Yeah.
is that risk involves losses, and most people are generally lazy. I mean, we are all born lazy, but unfortunately, most of us, we actually tend to stay lazy throughout our lives. And since risk, basically, what is a risk? Risk is taking action that might lead to losses when you do not have complete information. I repeat, trying to make a decision in a situation where you don't have complete information, knowing that you might lose something if you make the wrong call. And because of this, taking risk oftentimes brings about the natural emotion of fear in almost everyone, because guess what? We're talking about incomplete information that you do not know what it is, and we're talking about the possibility of losses, loss of time, energy, resources, and money. So because of that, generally people don't like to take risk, which is why the majority of people actually work in jobs, and we have far fewer entrepreneurs. Because, for example, an entrepreneur itself bears a lot more risk than having a safe, secure job. So that's number one. And number two, I'm pretty sure you can guess what attitude I have towards risk, given my
Yeah,
lifestyle,
fair point.
obviously. And I think of risk. Recently, I actually made a post on social media. I said, no risk leads to no reward. And I firmly believe in that because I believe that if you're not taking risks, then you will become part of the masses and you will fail to hit the highway of life. Because guess what, guys? If you want to get to certain places faster in life, you need to take more risks, because on the safe side, since we already mentioned most people are on the safe side of life, there's what we call heavy traffic. So if you want, I mean, it's your choice. Maybe for you, taking risk is something that is just too hard to bear, and you don't like to risk anything, risking your money, risking your time, energy, and whatever. But I believe that if you want to find yourself on the highway of life towards success and happiness, and you have no choice but to take risks, because in those highways, there are fewer cars, i.e. fewer people who are willing to take the kind of risk that you want to take. And for that reason, I have a very, very positive association towards the word risk. At the same time, of course, I'm not going to say that I'm like a gambler or something, even though I play Texas Hold'em poker quite seriously. I do not think of myself as a reckless person. I do not believe that we should just take any kind of risk. I instead believe in taking calculated risks. And because of that, I believe that risk equals reward. And for me personally, it's a very, very positive connotation and association.
Very good, very good. You mentioned something, and I want to clarify here. Our regular listeners will be probably familiar, but so you mentioned we are born lazy. Can you elaborate? Like, how is it biological? Can you elaborate on that?
This is completely natural. You see, we only have so much time and so much life and energy on Earth. And on an evolutionary level, we know this, which is why we love things like sugar or fatty food, because they allow us to save energy and to save food. And because of this, because we are consciously aware of our death, unlike animals are not aware. They're not consciously aware of death. We as humans are. And because of that, we value a lot more than animals do. And for that reason, we are a lot less likely to take risks, because we say, well, for example, let's think about like running a business, right? You say, well, I'm going to get a loan. I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to go for this business. And what if I cannot make it? Then not only I will lose all that money, I will also lose a lot of time and energy, and then I have to actually pay back that money. So why should I do it? I'm going to get a safe job, right? The same thing goes with any other area of your life, in your relationships, with your health, with, let's say, your hobbies. Everything you choose to do ultimately is about this, because we know that we only have so much time. So if I pursue a venture and it doesn't work out, then I will lose something that I do not have a lot of. And because of that, unfortunately, we see the masses of people who are living basically inspiring lives, because they are simply unaware of it. So I call this the masses play the game of life. And trust me, I do see life as a game. Now, there are many people who somehow oppose me. They say you should not see life as a game. And again, in another post, I mentioned that the people who see life as a game are generally far more successful and far happier, and they experience a lot less stress and frustration when things don't go their way, because that's what happens most of the time. Most of the time, things don't go your way. So because of that, I'm a firm believer in the fact that you want to actually design a lifestyle where you are taking the kind of risks that you want, because that will then allow you to do what most people don't. What is the game that most people play in life? They play the game of life not to lose, instead of playing to win. I repeat, they play the game of life not to lose, instead of playing to win. Let me give it a great example. Think of, for example, poker, right? So let's say, I don't know if you play poker, Pujix, but let's say you play Texas Hold'em, and you got the big blind, I don't know, $100, small blind, $50, and you go right away and you 3-bet these guys, and now you have $150, and everybody just folds, because they say like, well, what if I lose that $150? That's too much money. I'm not going to lose it, right? So people are like this. And if you look at on the poker table, the people who are a lot more aggressive and they are willing to risk losing their money, and of course are taking those risks, consciously and with calculation. Again, I'm so much against recklessness, and I'm so much against taking risk out of the seat of your pants. But if the players who are willing to actually think very carefully and are willing to lose their money are the ones who actually cash in a lot when it comes to the showdown. The same thing goes in life, in business, in your relationships, in finance, even in politics. I mean, we're right now bashing Trump all the time, but guess what? Trump won that election because he was willing to go all in on this, and he was willing to be booted, and he was willing to somehow be laughed at or something. So in life, the ones who are willing to lose a lot, and that oftentimes comes under self-confidence, are generally the ones who are playing to win. And since we have most people playing not to lose, those few people who play the game of life to win, oftentimes, not always, but oftentimes, become the winners in life. And that is why I believe those who are willing to take risks are living to win instead of living not to lose.
Super cool. And I feel like we need to have an episode on playing poker now that you talked about.
That's right.
No, joking. Anyways, so you mentioned something, and I'm gonna. So, yeah, let me ask you that first, actually. So you mentioned that treat life as a game, and then a lot of people might do oppose you. So, I'm trying to think. So what are they saying? Are they saying that life should be serious? You should be taking it serious. What is their argument? If you were to play the devil's advocate,
the problem with people. A very good question, by the way. Thank you for asking this.
Oh, no worries.
The problem with not, when people look at you and say, "Dude, you're treating life like a game." This is very much like the same feeling people have when they see you succeed and when they see that you're doing well. It's because of jealousy, because people who tend to see life as a game are capable of doing things that people who treat life very seriously simply are not capable of doing it. For example, for the same reason that if I told you I have a superpower and I can, I don't know, let's say pause the time, or I have a super cool car, for the same reason, being able to play, see life as a game gives you a serious advantage over those who do not. And that advantage oftentimes breeds insecurity and jealousy, just the same way almost any other type of achievement does, because it's an addition, it's a benefit. No one can say that someone who is willing to play life to win, who is willing to take more risks, who never gives up, who keeps trying, no matter how many times he hits the floor, he stands up again, and he keeps pursuing his goal or his dreams or whatever, nobody will say that that's a bad thing, but that's a sense of power. And that's exactly what happens when you see life as a game. Because when you see it as a game, you don't take it personally. You understand that you're here to win. And more importantly, you have a lot more motivation. So because of all these elements, and for the same fact that having a Lamborghini, or I don't know, being able to, having a very good memory, or being, I don't know, extremely physically fit would somehow, perhaps sometimes in some cases, lead to jealousy and envy, the same thing applies to those who see life as a game. Because when you are the kind of person who sees life as a game, you can do things that people who treat life seriously simply cannot. They simply can't. Like, there's too much fear, there's too much stress for these people, and they simply aren't willing to take that risk. And because of that, when they know they can't stop you, they start hating. That's the reason why this happens.
Fair point. And so there's this thing that I'm noticing. It might be my bias because I'm just more exposed to it, but it seems and feels to me that, you mentioned entrepreneurs because they have to be risk takers, obviously.
That's right.
And I feel like the community of entrepreneurs is growing worldwide, and specifically in the US and Canada. And first of all, I'm not sure if you're sharing this notion. And if you do, what would be the reason for that? Is it that people are understanding the value of risk taking in business in particular? Or is it just something fashionable that everybody's doing and it's going to die out at some point? What is your perspective on it? First of all, do you see it this way or not?
Right now. You just said it right now. That was very well.
Right.
First of all, Gary Vee himself predicts that by the time we hit our next economic recession in the U.S., which is expected to occur somewhere at the end of 2020, early 2021, a lot of these so-called entrepreneurs will actually reveal their face as wannapreneurs and will somehow stop and go back, they go back getting their jobs in corporate America or whatever it is. Because as you mentioned yourself, entrepreneurship now is a fashion and a trend that is predominantly promoted via social media. Because in the past, we were not capable of seeing how entrepreneurs lived their lives, because with the think of, like, I don't know, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we had no access. We only knew certain types of celebrities, let's say rock stars, actors, actresses, politicians. But thanks to social media, now we get to see that little kid in Oregon can just run a business and starts making millions before he hits 23, right? So because of social media nowadays, and we're saying, like, dude, if he can do it, I can do it too. So this is like, from my perspective, this boom is actually caused by social media. The second reason, of course, is the internet and the ease of communication, because entrepreneurship is all about what? Having a product or service, finding people who want to buy it, and then selling them and hoping for resales, and then repeat this process with more and more clients. That's pretty much entrepreneurship in a nutshell. So because of that, since entrepreneurship simply is about finding clients, satisfying their needs, and getting paid for it, basically the internet has allowed us to somehow, it has made it a lot easier to become an entrepreneur. Like in the past, if you wanted to, for example, get yourself, seen, you had to spend a lot of money on ads, billboards, or whatever. Nowadays, anyone can start from zero and soon accumulate hundreds, maybe even thousands of followers on social media, and these are all potential clients. If you have 500 followers on Instagram, you have 500 potential clients. 500 times you're more likely to sell your idea to someone who is willing to pay for it. And because of that, you obviously have a huge advantage. And the internet and the combination of the fact that we now see how these guys live their lives are causing this tremendous focus on entrepreneurship. However, as Gary Vee has predicted, this is probably a trend, and at some point it'll end because it's simply a matter of competition. Whenever competition goes up, profit comes down, and only what Gary Vee calls, purebred entrepreneurs, the people who really love entrepreneurship for the sake of entrepreneurship, that is, they love the battle of entrepreneurship, not just the results, are the ones who will stick around, because the ones who want entrepreneurship for the sake of, private jets and Lamborghinis will give up once they realize they're making only $500 a month for almost 2 years. And they say, like, oh, dude, I'm going to get a job. This is much better, right? So because of that, because a real entrepreneur is willing to make $500 a month for 5 years, and then make his first $5 million in one deal. He is a real entrepreneur. But most people, they just want to get the results quickly. So they start entrepreneurship, and the competition keeps going higher and higher. Just think of social media right now, all the apps you're getting, all the messages, all the DMs. So the competition gets more and more fierce. And because of that, only the people who really are willing to, they prefer to have a $500 income per month and not work at McDonald's, will be the ones who actually keep working as entrepreneurs. And the ones who say, like, dude, I can just entrepreneur right now. I can just go work in McDonald's and be paid, $2,000 a month. So why should I do this? And they leave, right? So because of this, it's a temporary fad, and I'm pretty sure that at some point it'll disappear, and we will only have the real entrepreneurs who love what they're doing and who are willing to compete in this marketplace.
Fair point. And I feel that too, as if it's some sort of fashion. Everybody's, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Maybe I am too. That's why my next question, is there a litmus test to this? Meaning, so people hearing this and thinking, fuck, am I one of those pretenders? What the fuck is happening? Is there any way that we can evaluate ourselves now, whether we are true entrepreneurs, we want to be entrepreneurs, what the hell is going on? And before this shit happens, actually. So if we're not, we just get out, right?
That's right. Exactly. So the best test you can have for yourself is the question why. Not what. You see, not what you're after. You ask, like, I want to get rich. I want to have a lot of money, right? That's the wrong question. Why are you an entrepreneur? For me personally, as somebody who's been an entrepreneur since he was 17 years old, I can tell you this right now. Entrepreneurship and those real entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs for a few reasons. Number one, their value and belief systems. I highly value things such as freedom and independence. Now, if you're the kind of person who by nature are dependent, that is, you need, for example, let's say you got to go to your gym and you got to call everybody to just push you to the gym, for example, or you need constant motivation from the outside, then probably you should not be an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs are self-motivated, number one. Number two, they strive for freedom and they want to have power. So if you are somehow the kind of person who does not value power so much in your, let's say, social circle, then probably having a boss is not a big deal. For example, I myself, I can never have a boss. I just simply can't. We'll always fight, and at some point I should say goodbye, boss, take it. Which, by the way, this happened to me once, because I had only one job in my life. We had a fight with my boss, and I never had a boss ever again, right? So that's the point. Can you tolerate having a boss? An entrepreneur cannot tolerate having a boss, period. If you say the idea of looking up and seeing a boss over there is unimaginable for a real entrepreneur. They just got to be the boss or they're out, basically. And the third element, of course, is about your lifestyle. Are you active? Are you a workaholic person? Because not all of our brains are the same. And I believe that those who are successful entrepreneurs, because I've known a lot of them over the years, they tend to have a few things in common biologically. Number one is hyperactivity. I've realized that most true entrepreneurs are extremely hyperactive, again, as adults. And because of that, they need constant stimulation. Being an entrepreneur means always on call, always ready for action, always ready for something, right? So if you are on the, let's say, calmer side, if you tend to take things very slowly and you need your free time and all those things, then you probably should not consider entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is like living like a fireman. It's like living like somebody who's always in emergency. So do you like life to be an action, a battle, or do you want life to be orderly, calm, and peaceful? For an entrepreneur, life is like a battle, which is why a lot of my mentors are people like Navy SEAL Special Forces or top entrepreneurs, top athletes. These are people who love action, who love to take, massive action on a regular basis, and they enjoy and they get bored when things are silent and quiet. So if you have all these qualities, you will always be an entrepreneur. But if you're in it just for the results or just for the title, like, dude, I'm an entrepreneur. What does it even mean? I don't know, but it seems cool on the internet, so I'm an entrepreneur. It just even sounds very fun. Entrepreneur, it's like, sounds pretty cool, right? So because of that, you have to somehow think about what it is that you really, really want from your life and from your, basically, business. And when you think about this issue for yourself and you realize that perhaps things aren't that easy, you have to then focus your attention on what is it that I really want from my life. And if you do that, you will then be able to somehow create a much better lifestyle, and you will then be able to somehow enjoy your life. For example, the word entrepreneur, it's a French word actually, and it comes from the word entre, which means between, and preneur, which means, I repeat, the word entrepreneur is a French word, entrepreneur, and it's made of two words, entre, which means between, and preneur, or taker. This means that this is someone who is exposed to taking action, taking results, making sales. I'm not going to say you have to be a taker in life, but I'm going to say you have to be a go-getter at least, right? So if you are not a go-getter, then the word entrepreneur itself says you probably should not be an entrepreneur, right? Because that is really about the notion of entrepreneurship. And if you really want to be an entrepreneur, understand the word is entre and preneur, which means in between taking. And you got to be a go-getter. If you're not, then probably you should consider safer paths towards basically your career.
Very good. That makes a lot of sense. Now by the way, we talked about motivation a couple of episodes back. So if you want to hear more, you can always go there. We're not talking about motivation specifically here, but I understand that you needed to allude to it to make a point. So there's that. And also, so we talked about risk and risk taking in business and in your work life, basically, whether you want to go start a business, quit your job, etc., or vice versa, whether you're a risk taker or not. Now, obviously, that's not the only, risk literally applies everywhere. You mentioned the game of poker, which is basically risk taking. So now, in more general aspects of any individual's life, I feel like at some point you need to get to take some risk, and
Exactly.
That's just inevitable. So, for example, if you want to find a partner, there's no way that you're say, okay, this person is definitely going to be my partner for life. You got to risk it and then actually spend some time with them, right? So, do you see
about partner? Let me just put a point.
Yeah, for sure.
Partner. One of my friends said, if you want to get a girl, you must first risk losing her. You see,
right.
Let's be honest. If you get a girl, either that girl wants you as a friend, let's just be friends, like the whole friend zone thing. We can actually talk about the friend zone later on if you want. But the girl will either consider you to be an idiot and doesn't want to talk to you, or she wants you as just a friend, you'll be friend zoned, or she wants you as a lover, as a partner. And here's the darn truth. If you want to get a girl to see you as a lover, as a man of her life, as a partner, you must risk losing her by trying to escalate things emotionally and to see if she responds well. But on the other hand, if you say, okay, I'm going to play this very safe with this girl is just so nice. I'm going to be the nicest guy ever. of course, you'll be friend zoned and you will never have her as your wife, as your partner, as your girlfriend. And because of this, in any area of life, even in a relationship, you got to risk a girl to actually get her and make her your basically partner.
Very good. And that makes sense. So you mentioned friend zone in a sense that I feel like what you're trying to go towards is that basically not taking risks sometimes dumps you in the friend zone. Is that where you go?
It's not sometimes, always,
Well,
because
yeah.
let's be honest, a girl will either see you in a emotional, sexual way, or she sees you as a great partner. And if she sees you, and again, that's not your choice, that's her choice. The woman decides. We have to respect her decision. Now, if she has decided you to be basically her best friend and that she talks to, I don't know, once or twice a week, and if you somehow escalate things a little bit sexually, she will be offended and she will never see you again. You will never see that woman ever again because she said, like, dude, that's just not, that's beyond. And this means risk losing her. And you must, if you really are after to, I don't know, you want to find the love of your life, then you must risk losing that girl to see if she sees you as a partner or as just a friend. And this is just for, relationships. This applies to everything in sales. You have to risk losing the customer by trying to increase the prices. Anytime you want to increase the prices, the customer will say, I'm not going to buy from you anymore. But you have to, if you want your business to grow, you must risk losing clients in order to actually have better clients or have higher revenues. This is about everything in life, man, everything, even for your health. Exercising at the gym is risky. You might entail physical injuries. You're lifting weights. You might actually break something. So everything good in life comes when you take some kind of risk. Because if you're not taking kind of risk, then it's easy. And the law of economics says if something is very easy, then more and more people will start doing it. And this creates massive competition and high traffic and waiting lines, which is why in any area of life, the ones who are taking risks are getting the rewards.
All right, fair point. So that's where I was going with. You sort of answered, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. So my question was, are you gonna so you clearly are a person who's taking risk in business and in your work activities. Do you do so take risk in your personal life, personal decisions, etc. as well? And do you see this as a characteristic of a person, rather in a sense that some people are just risk takers and they're risk takers in every single aspect of their lives? Or do you feel like this might be one of those cases that some people might actually develop this muscle, be like, okay, I want to be risk taker here in this respect, in this field, etc., and I don't want to be in another, for example. How do you see this playing out?
Well, first of all, I really believe that what you mentioned right now is, Dan, do you want to take big risks or serious risks? The reason that a lot of people might actually be willing to lose money, but they're not willing to take risks in their personal lives, is simply because taking a basically risk in your personal life might entail more pain and thus will be a bigger risk than taking risk in your business or with your clients. So the concept is the same. Maybe for you, taking risks in your personal life, it will be a lot scarier than taking risks in your business with your clients. But the notion is the same. And it all comes down to what is your risk-taking tolerance and threshold. Now, you mentioned, is it biological? Yes, there are biological reasons involved. There are genetic factors, of course, things such as testosterone level. It is proven scientifically that those who have, both men and women, who have more testosterone in their system tend to think they are luckier and they tend to take more risks. Secondly, it's about your biological tendencies. I mentioned earlier, extroverts take more risks than introverts, and also people who are generally more hyperactive or physically energetic tend to take more risks than those who are on the calmer side. So yes, there are biological factors, but generally speaking, I think it's really a combination of both. Because when I look at myself right now versus when I was, let's say, 17, yes, I was taking some very crazy risks, but they were not the kind of risks I wanted to take. It was more like getting into fights, I don't know, start shouting with some guys, doing some, stuff I should not have done. So generally, you want to think about taking the good kind of risks, and that requires education and learning. And we all, through conscious repetition, as well as education, can become better risk takers. And I think the best way to do so is to understand why we need to take risks, and we have no other choice. However, you're right. It's proven both neurologically as well as basically psychologically that certain individuals and personality types are more basically likely to take risks, while others are more risk avert.
Very good. And, when I'm thinking of it, it seems to me more so than before. I always had this mentality that, like anything else, risk doesn't have inherent bad or negative or positive attribute to it. It just depends. Yes, some risks, as you mentioned, are just stupid. You don't want to take them, and some risks are actually quite smart, meaning it has a good potential to lead to reward. And if you repeat them long enough, your reward gonna outweigh your loss. So that's what you want to try and do it.
Precisely.
And we are coming to the end of our show today. So I want to ask you if you have any final comments or things that we didn't talk about yet.
For sure. I just want to remind our listeners about the importance of taking risks. It doesn't matter if you have never taken risks in your entire life. It doesn't matter if you are a reckless person. Ultimately, you have to understand that no risk leads to no rewards. And it's your choice. You can play the game of life not to lose. You can say, well, what if I try and it didn't work? So you need to change your perspective. And anything we talk about in Beyond the Present podcast, basically, Pouya and I, we're always talking about these self-development and personal development stuff. It's really to get you to think differently. For example, you need to change your association with the word failure and understand that there is no such thing as failure in life. There's only feedback. And if you don't like the feedback you're getting, you can always change your behavior to get a different feedback. And once you begin basically taking steps towards personal development and self-actualization, then you will inevitably take more risks, because that's the only thing you can do to somehow take your life to the next level. You can simply not take I really believe that the biggest risk anyone can ever take is not to take a risk at all. That's like the biggest risk of all, because in that case, you will definitely fail in life and you will never have a single moment of happiness, victory, or prosperity. So if you are listening to us right now, and if you haven't been taking risks for a long time, maybe you are about to take a huge risk. Maybe you're about to move abroad or start your business or ask the girl next to you out on a date or whatever it is you want to do right now. You need to take that risk, damn it. You got to take the first step. You got to be a strong person and go and say that I want to do this and I'm ready for it. Because if you don't take the risk, let me give you some motivation here. Let me take maybe if what we've talked about so far won't motivate you, let me just tell you this, and maybe this will motivate you. You can decide not to take the risk, but if you don't take the risk of starting that business, of for example, going on that venture or going on that trip or asking that girl or boy out or whatever it is, if you don't take that risk, then the person who is willing to take that risk will get that business, will get that girl, and will get that lifestyle that you simply desire, okay? So life is a competition. If you don't like the idea, then start thinking about it this way. If you don't take that risk, then you will simply hand over that possibility to the person next to you who is willing to take that risk. So if you have true self-respect, if you really respect your ideas, if you have goals, then please take that risk, take a lead, and shoot for the stars.
As always, it's awesome chatting with you, Dan. And with that, we are coming to the end of the show. Thank you again for joining me for this amazing talk.
It is my pleasure, my man. It's great to be here with you. You always choose great topics and have wonderful questions. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. And literally, this is not just us saying it. Literally, without you, we're just speaking to empty vacuum. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in.
By the way, Pujix, before I actually end the show,
yeah.
I would like to actually tell us more about the views. I was surprised by the number of reviewers we have from around the world. So you want to actually share that information with some of our listeners as well. I was really surprised when I got the stats the other day.
Yeah, we were quite global. Like we have, I mean, there are dominant ones in some of the countries for sure, like United States, Canada, Russia, etc. But then I was looking at the map and I was like, basically from every continent we have a few.
We have listeners, exactly.
Yeah,
but I
literally.
was surprised by one thing. If you remember, I was so pissed that we have more viewers in California than we have in New York and New Jersey.
That is true.
Come on, guys. New Jersey, New York, come on, step it up, please. Let's go.
Yeah, that is true. Though in my corner of the world. I'm super happy that Ontario is getting more than Quebec, so that's good.
So in Canada now, Ontario is getting all the viewers, right?
Not all, and there are some in Quebec and BC as well, but yeah, dominantly.
But I think Ontario's kicking ass right now, right?
Yeah,
Toronto's kicking ass. Ontario.
It's killing them actually. So it's I don't know percentage-wise, but close to 60-something% is just Ontario. Yeah.
Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Bravo.
So that's
I
awesome.
want to thank all of our viewers for the podcast from around the world. And we would like to thank you so much for your attention, and keep basically following up with basically our programs. Keep watching our posts on social media, and we'll be glad to actually help you guys. And thank you so much. But New Jersey and New York, come on, step it up, guys. California's looking ahead. Let's go.
Yeah, man, it's a competition. You got to risk it.
That's right. Well, New Jersey, take some fucking risk, goddammit.
Yeah, spend some time. All right.
That's
Thank you again. And until later episode, have a good one.